Hey guys, I want to tell you a story a little bit about this painting that I'm going to be working on in this video. A friend offered to come out and help me shoot some of the video. We set out to record the entire process of a painting. Before he came out, I already knew mostly exactly what I was going to paint. I knew I was going to do a Porsche 911. When that changed, I knew exactly what the topic of this video was going to be. It's not exactly about how I painted it. Maybe we'll cover that in another video sometime, but sort of the why and the trusting the process part of this entire thing. So what ended up happening, even though I knew that I wanted to paint a Porsche 911 for this painting, for this video, Mike got here, we kind of discussed the plan, and turns out that there's a few cars blocking my garage door. So getting something out and back in was going to be a little bit more of a challenge than an average day. There's always a lot of cars in and around the parking lot here, so rather than make a fuss, I just decided, you know what, let me just do a painting of the car that's in here. Wasn't my first choice, strangely enough, despite how much I love this car. I was like, it's here, let's just switch gears, let's just jump into it, and let's just shoot from the hip, we'll make it work, one way or another. Yep, it wasn't part of the plan, but I'll make it work. I'm not really worried about that. The artwork will come out whichever way the artwork comes out. That's just kind of the journey of the artwork. And the car we ended up painting is the Ferrari 348 Spider. I keep it parked inside of my studio. I love having this car in here because I think it's a really cool piece of artwork to have in here. But the point of this video isn't why the car necessarily or how the artwork gets painted. It's actually really more about the process of painting itself or drawing. I change my format pretty frequently just to kind of challenge myself or try new materials or come up with a new way to do things, which is part of why I was actually really excited that we switched gears on what I was going to paint. I already had an idea of how I was going to paint a 911, and then here we changed into something totally different. Different colors, different lighting, different everything, which meant I had to really think on the fly. And this is part of where trust in the process comes into play a little bit. It's a very cliche thing to say, and I realize that, but because of the way that I paint, I don't often really know what the end result is going to be. Even in the case of this painting, where I did actually take my own photo reference, which is pretty unusual for me. I rarely have photos to work from in terms of lighting or actual lights. I just kind of jump in and go for it, and I kind of sort it out as I go. And I like that, but that is very much a trust the process type of thing. You're kind of hoping that you're going to get to an end result that looks cool. And I don't often really know. So even in the best case scenario where I'm here and I shot my own photo, it's a car that I see all the time, so I know what it looks like. I know what it looks like in under lots of lighting conditions. Still, the idea that I've got a friend here helping me film kind of puts a little bit of extra, in your mind where you're like, man, I gotta go through this a little bit quicker than maybe I'm used to for the sake of capturing as much of this on camera as possible. Probably a couple hours in, and the paint process is going good, or as good as it can go, and the filming process is going good. And there was a spot probably about 2 or 2.5 hours in, which might have been about halfway or just before halfway on this one. I already was having the conversation in my head to tell my friend, hey, some of these go well and some of them don't, and today is one of those days where I'm just not sure that this is going well. Because I was just kind of starting to think, we could just save ourselves some time if I don't pretend to try to finish this one and it doesn't turn into something, because they don't all turn into something, and that's the reality. So my mind was already having that conversation of letting my friend know that maybe this one just isn't panning out. And if you've ever watched the process of these videos on Instagram, the way I work is so messy in the beginning, and then it kind of tightens up and cleans up. I've been reluctant to share that process for a long time because it looks pretty horrific in the beginning, but I've kind of learned to appreciate that the evolution between something that looks really messy in the beginning to what it turns out to looking like in the end is actually a really fun journey. Now watching the process is more interesting to see how it's going to end, because there's no way it looks anything like how it starts out. And I've come to really enjoy that. But because that ugly, messy, horrendous stage can last for a couple of hours, it sometimes is hard to tell, is this one going to pan out or not? And not every single piece does. There's plenty of times where I'll start a piece and a couple hours in I'll go, you know what, this one just isn't working out. So I'll set it aside and I'll start fresh right away. I'll start in a fresh approach. I'll take all the things that I learned, all the mistakes that I made, and just dive straight into the next one. Thankfully, this one didn't go that way. I thought that it might, and it didn't. Actually, I just decided to kind of keep working through. Having the extra company here was really nice. And it worked out. This actually ended up being a really fun piece. I rarely get to do paintings of my own cars. So this was really, really, really cool. And I was glad that I stuck with it. But again, that comes back to the theme of trust in the process. Not because I think that this painting is going to be the best thing that I've ever done. You know, you have to sort of push past that stage of, is this one good? And they're not all going to be good, and not every single one is going to be a level up from the last one, or better than or be the best one you've ever done. But that's not always necessary. Sometimes it's really more about going through the process, learning things that you didn't know from the last one, and taking them moving forward. Not every piece has to be an example of the best thing you've ever done. To me, it's more fun to enjoy that process than it is to make sure that I've done a better job than the last one. Because I'll oftentimes play with working messier or working cleaner, and to viewers that may seem better or worse. But how it feels the way that I'm working, it's actually kind of a different story. Coffee time. So all that to say that doing artwork, at least the way that I work, being so messy in the beginning, is a bit of a roller coaster ride, especially mentally. You're just kind of like, I have an idea of how this can go, especially if you have a reference, but I don't really obey the references as much. So I kind of lean on my creativity a little bit to inspire a look in the process. And this is part of why I like to work quickly as well, and in a small frame of time. It does mean that I have to make a lot of corrections through the process, but I think how an artist makes corrections is just as important as how they make brushstrokes. Painting isn't necessarily a straight line process. Oftentimes it's this really windy, wiggly road, and sometimes you do gotta make a U-turn and come a few steps back and go forward again, or sometimes it's more efficient to scrap that one and start over and just take your best lessons forward with you on the next one. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm glad I stuck it through on this one. I really, really enjoyed the process. And the best decision to make is to really assess it honestly and kind of push through a little bit more than you think that you might. If you just push through a little bit, you kind of get to the next stage, you kind of get to the next stage, you kind of get to the next stage. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Was that good? Did we do good? I don't know who I'm talking to. There's nobody here. Oh.